real outside that pickup, don't know about pickup 4631 something. Wabifunye mubiraje. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I take pleasure to welcome you. We have a program which I think has been served to you. And I'm reliably informed that the Honorable Minister heading the STI will join us via Zoom. And since she's a science person, this is part of deepening science in the way we run government business. So allow me now to invite you to raise up for the national anthem so that we can kick off on this session. Thank you. Please take your seats. Honorable Minister, wherever you are, and your team that is physically present here, my name is Washasha Willis, Director of Manifesto at the Presidency. And on behalf of the Presidency that monitors the progress performance of the Manifesto, I take pleasure to welcome you, the team from Science, Technological and Innovation Secretariat, for coming to share with us the journey of science in our socio-economic transformation and also how we are securing our future as a theme of our manifesto. Allow me to introduce to you the team that I work with at the MIU. I see the Deputy Director here, Mr. Fred Kamujira. I have Gloria Mwenge, our Principal Administrator at the other side, and some of our other technical people could still be engaged in other activities. the Manifesto Week, viewers and members from the STI, is to celebrate, but in form of accountability. So we are here to celebrate the journeys we have made on the different commitments that we pledged to the people of Uganda, and it is through that this Manifesto Week is premised on. Now, as you are aware, in the 2016-2021 term, the President, in his wisdom, introduced the Ministry of STI. And since then, we have witnessed the role of STI in trying to be a key driver of our social economic transformation. And today's story will also give us more insights on how we have gone on this journey as far as the different commitments that we are looking at in the manifesto. So, Honorable Minister and your team, we are happy that you are here to share with us this journey. But this is also to assure you that this is not a baraza, this is not a political rally. This is just a platform to allow you shine and celebrate the achievements with the rest of Ugandans and even non-Ugandans who are interested in the journey of our country. So we will run the program as said. Honorable Minister, I hope you will be able to be with us as we hope you will be still with us after Zoom to listen to the observations from the unit, and then any other questions that will be raised, and you will be able to respond accordingly. But you are also at liberty to invite any of your team members to support the responses in the areas of concern that may be raised. Allow me now, Honorable Minister, to invite you. We have already saluted the efforts by deepening science through even how science is transforming even the processes of how we are running government business, by the fact that you are not physically here, but we can still communicate to us and communicate to the country. I think it's also another milestone in the direction of how science is trying to revolutionize our socio-economic transformation agenda. I now take pleasure and honor to invite you, Honorable Minister, to inform the country how far we have gone on the various commitments in this science journey. Yes, we hear you, Honorable Minister.
We seem to have a network challenge that side.
Yes, but we are picking you. Honorable Minister will be listening in now. It's your turn to tell us. We'll be listening. Francis?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me well? Give me a signal that you are hearing me.
Yes, you are loud and clear. Go ahead, Honorable Minister.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Manifesto team. My apologies that I'm not in the room, but the communication came when I was already in the air. But thanks to technology, we can do this. So what I'm going to do is give a few opening remarks, and then the team in the room will give the rest of the presentation. So I just want to talk a bit about the background and contextualization. And I must say, from the beginning now, that it has been a fantastic journey, being captain in this ship from SCI, taking off on the runway and going through terminals and reaching where we have reached now. And so we started by trying to understand the context of making science, technology, and innovation work in a context like Uganda. Their economic development. And the NRM Manifesto was promising making science, technology, and innovation work for the nation and to show how so we had some clear government wanted to see SCI work in during this time, and it is recognized that the science prayers, communication to the nation, we have now visualized and we can summarize what the President really wanted to see done in his budget speech of 2023. It was the clearest statement that helped us to understand. Are you able to hear us? To hear me?
Yes, yes,
Honorable. So the President made this epic statement as his vision for the science and modernization. The regional economy of USD 550 billion acknowledges the already achieved goal of quantitative expansion, but it adds another element of qualitative leap, which is fueled by the knowledge economy. And so that crystallizes the President's desire in this manifesto in summarizing what had been. And so we had to think through what is this concept of knowledge economy. So knowledge economy consists in which the production of goods and services is based principally on knowledge-intensive activities that contribute to advancement in technical and scientific innovation. Now, we have some knowledge which is given to us in textbooks, which has been given to us in school, but that is not necessarily what knowledge economy is. Knowledge economy is retained the evolving knowledge and knowledge that you have generated through thought processes, through analysis of data. And so we build an economic system which is based on that. And what this essentially means is that you are going to go against some of the established things which are ongoing. And generally, this is what makes science, technology, and innovation fail in Africa, because we are so stuck on things that were established so many years ago in the public service, in the routine of managing and the laws knowledge economy does not thrive very well that way. So we have through this time studied the subject of knowledge economy and tried to see how do we harness this, and we are going to see this in the presentation. How do we harness this in the manifesto? And we have been able to categorize 6 tiers of knowledge and map it how we are implementing it. So the total economy is the knowledge that we already know. That is, everybody knows that during the rainy season we go and plant seeds. Applied knowledge is where we get technology from elsewhere, so I know that if I go and dig with my home, I'll take a shot in the longer time so I can hire a tractor. So we are bringing in technology and knowledge which is there, generated by others. We don't know how to create it, but we use it. Then shared knowledge is when we take that knowledge, technology and knowledge by others, but we build something over our own knowledge. And then there is intermediate knowledge, modified knowledge, and deep knowledge. I may not have time to describe all this. But what I would like you to know is when we found out that the level of knowledge that we choose to apply in the economy will determine the impact of that knowledge on the economy. And you can note, you see those arrows arising from the different tiers. So when you use the shared economy and factor economy, you will have almost immediate impact, immediately seen now, but it is going to be little and it is going to be tiny limited. But when you use deep knowledge, which is the deep science and technology, then you may take a bit of time, but the impact is going to be bigger and it is going to last long. I would also like us to note, so the value of knowledge increases as we go deeper in the first exact arrow. So the shallower the knowledge, the lower in magnitude and the shorter the duration of impact on the economy. And this means that sometimes you are going to work in waters that the general public, even the general government, does not understand you very well. Because if you are going to deal with the new knowledge, which is the deep knowledge, because the upper knowledge expires. And so as we have been, how do we apply this? So in our projects that you're going to see as we implement the manifesto, as we present, you are going to see application of that and technology which is ranging from applied technology. We need the factor economy for what has been done. But for us, we are starting with the applied tech, applied knowledge for applied tech, and then big up to the big one, which many people may not even see value to it, but it is very, very important because it's the one that is going to give us the long lasting impact that we want. And so, knowing this, that the difference between the developed nations and the underdeveloped one, you can explain it by how they use science, technology, and innovation. What really amazes you when you go to China? What amazes you when you go to Dubai? It's technology, it's science, technology, and innovation. And so, when a nation adopts this technology and accepts it in their systems, then we begin to produce more value with the same amount of resources. And so, we took that and started because it's not just a matter of implementing these projects and policies. The real issues really produce the impact that is expected. And so we have to go into modeling and understanding, because science is now supposed to have an impact on the economy. So we know that this is data from international sources, which is available, and we use it to model if the economy of Uganda continues to grow in the areas where we are prioritized, but without making science make a bigger impact. By 2040, we are going to be at around 120 billion. 150 billion gross. And so we also did, if we are going to get 550, the economic growth, it's not about to actually double it as much as it is growing at a minimum of 15%. Because we have seen that most nations which have attained the quantitative, they are very intentional. They were not gambling. They were very, very intentional in what they were trying to do, especially the head of state was always very, very intentional to make sure that I know what I want and I am going to make it happen. And this is what His Excellency has really expressed throughout the times. And so this is the growth of the economy that is promised us. And so we have to make sure that it grows. So Ministry of Finance and the other National Planning Authority, they picked this up. We have worked closely with them. And now they have defined the growth sectors which are going to give us that qualitative need, that are going to give us that need in the economy. And you can see that SCI in that way is one of the growth sectors. But I want to point it out that also the other three areas to grow, they need to be supported by SCI. Normal development has to go to the value addition, which requires SCI. Tourism, we have to go to value addition, and industrialization, we have to go to value addition. So you will see in our presentation how we interpreted the manifesto promises. You will see the touch of this throughout the presentation. And SCI per se, we are supposed to be contributing 136 billion USD to the economy by 2040, and that's the model which lays out what we must achieve annually if we are going to get there. We started from 2025 this modeling. So this is what we work towards, to not just implementing events, not just building constructing an industrial park, and not just building the but does it make sense to the economy? That is what we have been doing. And so we set a vision, and this vision is to make Uganda the best, most technologically advanced, and most innovative nation in the region. This is our vision, which we are working towards. And so every time you see SCI, you will see something like make Uganda the best. And there is a lot behind that. If you're going to be Pan-Africanist and share the story of growth, which we are leading of science, technology, and education, which we are leading on the continent, you must be very good. Nobody wants to be safe and mediocre. And so we have set our targets really, really high. But the good news is that we are hitting them. So in order for us to achieve that, we have crafted an ideology, and this ideology is anchored in the NRM core principles of democracy, patriotism, Pan-Africanism, and socio-economic transformation. And so they are reflected all through what we do. They are reflected through the conduct, our staff, through the structure of the SCA Secretariat, and how we relate with both other MDAs and private sector, but they are also reflected in how we deal with the international community, both with other governments and agencies. And these are our 8 ideological statements. They are long, but I just briefly that SCA is for the economy, so that's why you will find a lot of economic analysis and efforts to lead what we are doing to the economy, such that we can ensure that science, technology, and innovation is not just a hobby of some scientists who want to play around with things in the lab, but it is actually a great impact. And so, actually, I am speaking on Gaborone. I was attending the Africa Economic Conference. I was the only scientist there, but I made a lot of sense. Because if we had not have Africa and African nations understand how SCI works, then we can forget socioeconomic transformation. The second one is making that the best. That is, we go for the best that we can. And it is in our statement because we want to be leaders. The specialized governance for SCI. SCI does not work in the normal public service setup that we have adopted in the country. It has qualities which just make it is continuously changing and everybody must be willing to change. But if we are only moved by standing orders, it just doesn't work. Then the human capital development and growth. In SCI, we don't need labor. We don't need people who come to work because they have a job and they have a job description. In SCI, we develop people, and so the hierarchy is very, very flat. Then development science institutions, you will see quite a bit of this. Then the SCI economy highway, you will also see how we are balancing, how we take science ideas and build an economy. The look at the belief speaks to us appreciating our heritage. The heritage of knowledge and understanding that our ancestors have had is a custody of knowledge, of unique knowledge. And then the belief speaks about us going, making sure we are catching up. We do not sit here and sympathize with ourselves and say, oh, you are another developed nation. Why are you going for that? But the rest of the world has gone there. You cannot be doing 1960s science hoping that you will sell it to the modern community, because we need market, we need to access the current resources. And then decentralization of SCI. So SCI works best when leaders at various levels are able to think. We guide the policy, but we guide the policy and direction, strategic direction, but ideas arise from brains. Science is about ideas, and ideas are contributed voluntarily. I can pick my idea and not tell you. We can't communicate to tell you people. So we need to create an ecosystem where people volunteer their ideas for national development. And so we came up with that. We have developed a strategy as an output of the implementation of this manifesto. And the strategy has two major approaches. Building a new economy. This is making things which nobody thought Uganda could be. You know that the class economics and saying that we must have somewhere where we have comparative advantage. No, we are making some new economic because we have analyzed that if we set only in our traditional areas where we think we have comparative advantage, we are not going to get the economy that the president is envisioning. And then we defined 5 pillars, areas where we work, and we mapped the manifesto promises to this. Developing infrastructure and starting from the far right, making sure we have the requisite infrastructure, making sure that we are paying a lot of attention to developing the human capital, making sure that there is a conducive investment ecosystem. This is an area where we hope that we can discuss, especially as the manifesto secretariat moves to work on the new manifesto. SCI does not work with the normal way that funding and investment is done by government. We cannot we can't receive money quarterly. We neither should really be forced to give up money in the money that has been committed or money which is to finish it in that time. Get those that money can be used. So this is something we need to have a better engagement. Then policy ecosystem. At the base in the foundations, we have principles that we define. There are 5 of them. Scientific process, we don't make decisions based on recurrent issues. Everything has to go through a scientific process, so we can trust the finding. Ecosystem thinking, we don't see SCI working in isolation. SCI works in the complex environment. Value chain approach, trying to maximize the value chain in which we have started, and we have to see there are so many products that arise. The SCI journey, that is how you take ideas and the multiple steps that they must go through so that you can bring them to the shops and people are willing to buy, because SCI is not complete until there is a customer willing to pay for the product. And the last one is brutal integrity. SCI is important for corruption at any level, in any form. So we are we need a lot of protection in the Uganda ecosystem to make sure that this is a protected zone. Because if you make an error, roll and omission, if I get money and then 10% of it is not spent the way it was supposed to be, that means the results are 10% less, and that means the vehicle doesn't come out with 10% less, and how could one use the vehicle which is 10% less? So SCI advice really important because brutal integrity that is not compromising. And so in the economy, there are many sectors. These are the part of our economy, and you are going to see them. And these are the areas of the new economy, mobility, pathogen economy, space, infrastructure and engineering, then industry. For these are things that Uganda has not been doing and building our economy on. The ones that we have put up, we are making sure they are not just monuments, they are economic drivers. And so those are the areas, and these were chosen specifically because of the global market opportunity. We have about what's the market. So we look at the global market opportunity, we look at potential for import substitution, how much of that are we importing, and how much of that can we import. Then the national strategic imports. Many people say, why are you focusing on space? After all, space in Uganda is still. No, it's a very, very important strategic importance. Then we also look at value addition to our raw materials, which we have the opportunities presented by global technology and market. For example, why are we doing the mobility? Because somehow the world decided that the current context requires that we move away from fossil fuels and we enter green energy. Now, it was difficult for Uganda to start competing with people making an engine of a vehicle, because people have been making that since the second industrial revolution. But once they moved to electric vehicles, we put our foot in the door. And we are
on the continent now, because we have the biggest, most competent and most capacitated in the automotive facility on the continent of Africa. And we are standing shoulder to shoulder with the international community, and then the potential to ignite other value chains in the. So the monies are there. I will not spend a lot of time. And import substitution, this is data from the available sources, URA and Wobos now. And we have the biggest, so this is how much most we are importing, and we are targeting most that for some of it and the automotive facility on the continent of Africa. And the priorities for this is for us to make sure for each of those we have a legacy pathfinder project. That includes a project like Chiramotos, which helps us to learn how you walk this journey. And then we need the requisite infrastructure. That's why for Chiramotos we put up the vehicle plant, but also you will see a number of infrastructure projects. And this was well articulated. This is how much most we had to align it, most that to make sure that some of it and the automotive facility on the substitution. Then there are new areas of research for this, for us to make sure for each of those that there are some gaps, but also in the that includes a project like Chiramotos, which helps us to learn how we have to fund new areas, and then we need we have to develop the human capital, the requisite human capital. So in our also you will see a number of these kinds of things. So in the things that we have been some of it and selling as raw materials, both internally and externally, and trying to industrialize them, do research to make sure you can make sweet potato juice out of it. So we are working, and you'll see this in the implementation of this manifesto. And this summarizes our strategy for value addition. When we have raw materials and there's already proven technology outside, we just request for funding to implement, to procure the technology. But there are things that we're producing in the country, manufacturing, but they are not of quality. Even ourselves, we don't eat them. We don't use them. We use imported ones. There we are going to invest in improving the quality. And then we have products that we have been importing. We are not yet making them in the country, but the engineering, the science is not difficult. So we engage in reverse engineering. And then when we have products like banana, matoke, many people complain about matoke, but you don't know the value. I hope PBD is in the room. These people have created a lot of value for this country. And because they have taken a commodity which we were just eating, and they have generated the primary science. I think it's the entity with the highest number of patents. And they have created science that is not existent. To adopt a multi-sectoral approach to the STI development, increasing funding to research institutions for acquisition of state-of-the-art technologies necessary to support research and production, establishment of technology. I'll not read through them all to save time, because they are going to go through them one by one. Cosmas is going to do that. But what we did is we got these promises and contextualized them in the making science touch the economy, making science build the economy, in getting the qualitative leap. So you will see as we walk through the presentation how the promise is being achieved across. So the reason I had to present the background is the manifesto presentation is aligned to the promises and not the value chains, the specific value chains. So now that you see the background and you know the focus areas, you will be able to align them to the different manifesto promises. So apart from the manifesto promises, there were additional strategic directives and guidelines. Some of them were given to us as written directives by the head of state or the prime minister. Others were given during public announcements. Others were given in cabinet. And so we have also brought this up. And so I want to thank you so much. I would like to request Cosmas to take over from there. Please make sure that it is on Zoom because I am continuing to stay here. Thank you very much for listening to us. We are very, very passionate about STI, and we are very, very excited because we are seeing that the dream is coming true. We can now quantify even some money, the money, that positive cash flow that is coming from science, technology, and innovation. We can achieve the qualitative leap only and only if we understand and effectively implement science, technology, and innovation. Over to you. Thank you.
It's fine to see the explaining our progress on
Is it on Zoom?
I'd like to introduce the team which has done all the work, and these members come from the various STI communities. I'll start with Chila Motors, Dr. Sindikoti. We have a team from Uganda Industrial Research Institute.
Yeah, it's okay.
The Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, led by the acting Executive Secretary, Dr. Moore. We have a team from Egypt, led by Dr. Joseph Bahati. Then we have a team from the INSTEP project, led by Mr. Anthony. And we have some leads from the STI secretaries. So our colleague who leads our infrastructure innovations bureau. And so now I'll proceed to give a blow-by-blow account of the progress we have made with respect to the various.
Who's going to be running?
Okay, Francis, maybe I can request for your help in moving the slides manually. One slide back, please. All right, so the first promise is to ensure that we stop working in silos, because science doesn't work in silos. So it's adoption of a multi-sectoral approach to implementing STI in the nation. So everything we are touching involves all key stakeholders, and this includes stakeholders from government MDAs, from the private sector, from institutions of higher learning, development partners, etc. And so we implement what we call the wheel and spoke model, where the Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat is in the middle, but it's playing a coordination role to ensure that all the partners that are relevant to implementation of STI move in sync. And as you can see, it's also enshrined in the mandate that has been given to us. We are supposed to coordinate and facilitate all those players to ensure that we deliver on all the promises. I'll now give you an example of, a practical example of how this has been implemented. A year ago, we started working on the e-mobility strategy for the nation, and this is supposed to be a blueprint to guide all our actions towards implementing electric mobility interventions over the next 15 years in the nation. And so we brought together more than 80 stakeholders across government, across the private sector, and from the development partner community. And these players got together and developed this ecosystem. They developed the e-mobility strategy. The ecosystem itself is in 6 clusters, ranging from R&D engineering, energy, transportation planning and management, value chain financing, regulation, and digital infrastructure. This strategy has been approved by the relevant interministerial committee, and it's available. It's available online through that QR code. Now, because we brought all the relevant players in the room, in 1 month after launching the strategy, we were able to get commitment of $800 million towards the implementation of this strategy. Now, this strategy aims to make Uganda a net source of e-mobility solutions. And we have ambitious targets. We want to have a full transition of public transport to electric mobility by 2030. And so the mission is a robust, self-sustaining, and competitive e-mobility ecosystem for the nation. I'll show you some of the focus areas of this strategy. We have local EV manufacturing, we have battery manufacturing, we have electrification of public transport, and many others. And we have already taken concrete steps in implementing most of these interventions. I'll also give you a few examples of that. For example, in local EV manufacturing, we want to increase local manufacturing and supply of electric buses, motorcycles. So we're not just looking at buses or SUVs, we're also looking at the 2 and 3 wheelers, and I'll also show you some traction that we have made. Those are our targets. Currently, we have annual installed capacity of 10,000, manufacturing 10,000 EVs annually. 2,500 of that is at Shira Motors, and the rest is in the 2 and 3 wheeler space. We have already attracted investment of 514 billion. This is from government and the private sector. And over the past 1 or 2 years, we have already realized revenues of more than 37 billion. Currently, we have local content of about 18 to 30%. It varies depending on the product. But we also have a target that by 2030, we'll have localization of most of the EVs in the nation, going up to 65%. And also starting this financial year, the government has implemented incentives that encourage local electric vehicle manufacturing within the nation. And these range from VAT exemptions, tax exemptions on importation of parts and components, and also tax breaks of up to 10 years for local manufacturers. And we think that it's important for us to incentivize local manufacturing rather than incentivizing importation of fully assembled products, because those will not contribute to our GDP as much as the work that we do here. And when it comes to so these are some of the players. I'm sure if those of you who have used border borders recently might have sat on a border board and you don't hear any noise and you wonder what is happening. We already have more than 4,000 electric borders throughout the country. These are some of the players. We have Spiro, we have Zembo, we have Gogo, and we have Kara, which is making electric bicycles within the nation. And all this is with our support. And in fact, the target for transition of borders to fully electric is even closer. We have a target that by the end of this manifesto implementation period, we should have hit up to 80%, and we have full transition by 2027. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we cannot make everything within the country. Every nation that makes electric vehicles or makes anything operates on a simple principle. You buy some and make some. You have to identify particular niches that are going to have maximum economic impact for you as a nation. For example, you're not going to start making bolts and nuts. The technology is mature. You're not going to make enough profit by selling 5,000 bolts in a year. So let someone who has mastered that for the past 100 years continue doing it. But then there are some areas where we can break ground. And this helps us to now see how to start leveraging our natural resources and have them contribute to the mobility value chain. And in fact, for this reason, mobility is known as an industry of industries because it can spur various value chains, especially emanating from our minerals, our petrol, our oil and gas industry. So you have plastics, you have wiring and wire harnesses, which we can get from copper, rubber, and many others. We have components we can make from leather. We have our mineral ores, lithium, graphite, cobalt, which you can use to make EV batteries and many other components. We have our iron ore. As you know, government has a moratorium on export of raw mineral ores, and this is why government really is insistent that would rather keep our mineral ores in the ground instead of giving them out at a pittance, because the time is coming when we're going to need them to spur our local industries. And we already have players in some of these areas that are doing substantial value addition. You see examples of players who are already assembling. Now, we've not yet gone deep into the battery value chain. We're doing R&D on one end on lithium and other components. That's not yet mature, but somewhere midway we are already assembling, and we're thinking that in the short to medium term we'll be able to bridge these two, and very soon you'll have a fully made electric vehicle battery in Uganda. You're familiar with Uganda batteries, for auxiliary batteries. We have electronics and semiconductors players, and many others. And so this is where now the target of 65% comes from, that by 2030, we will have 65% localization, but targeting areas where we are likely to harness as much value for our nation as possible. Now, as far as electrification of public transport is concerned, I had mentioned that the target is that all public transport should be fully electric at some point. Now, this is not just save the environment. Yes, we can chorus that, but we want to do that while at the same time harnessing economic benefit for our nation. And you see what the targets are. Currently, we have only 27 electric buses that have been made by Chira Motors, and 4,300 electric motorcycles are from the players that I mentioned earlier. Now, key to implementation of electric mobility in the nation is establishment of the requisite infrastructure for charging these mobility implements, and that is why a charging network comes in. And again, the role of government is not to necessarily be the one to put this in place, but to put in place a facilitative ecosystem, a policy environment that encourages the private sector to invest. I'll give an analogy I'll give an analogy of petrol stations. Government doesn't have to invest in establishing petrol stations, but a time will come when charging networks need to be as widespread throughout the nation as petrol stations are. And so we need to have fast chargers at least within a 50-kilometer radius in the short to medium term. We have already gained traction on this. You see that we have more than 30 DC fast chargers already in the nation. We already have 7 at public stations. You can find some. Ministry of Energy has taken the lead. You can find a few at Amber House. We have more than 150 swapping stations for motorcycles. And this is the model that most of the border EVs have preferred. And this is also to ensure that the borders are affordable, so you don't own the electric battery. So they operate on a battery as a utility model. So you swap. When it runs out, you pass by a swapping station, and that now alleviates you from the cost that would have gone into buying and owning the battery. And then we want full electrification of the government fleet. We have to walk the talk. So representatives of government MDAs who are here and those who are listening to us, we have developed the capacity to develop, at least for now, electric buses within the nation. Very soon we'll also be able to develop SUVs. So there is really no reason why any MDA should now be buying a bus that is made outside Uganda. Our buses are very well tested and they are very competent and they're best in class on the African continent. And it would be good if this was taken up as a policy intervention, because we have to support our very own. To also demonstrate how this ecosystem that we call the networks, I'll just quickly highlight a few other interventions that we have taken part in. Our minister led the interministerial coordination team that has restored confidence in the Sukulu Phosphates manufacturing facility, and that is also now nearly back on track. You see the clinical trials for natural therapeutics platform that we have established, so that we start to establish confidence in our natural therapeutics. And this is a cross-sectoral platform that encompasses our health units, our professors. The trial facility itself is at Mulago. We analyze the natural therapeutics value chain. We know more than 70% of our people take natural therapeutics, but you never know how much you should take or whether it's likely to harm you. And that can only be alleviated by going through the rigorous science, collecting the data on efficacy, on toxicity, and many other attributes. Another example that I can mention is on the Climate Tech Summit. Now here we're bringing together local players and seasoned players throughout the world to develop a strategy for development of climate technologies that will work for our nation. We know COP has just ended, but you saw the conversations we are having. Most of us were not really focusing on the technology. We were focusing on, to put it mildly, begging most of the global south, saying we are sequestering your carbon, you should be paying us. But what are we doing? We shouldn't wait for anyone to save us. If we're able to develop our own technologies and package our own products, we won't be begging for money. The projects will speak for themselves and they will attract the relevant carbon credits. And you see, this happened just in July, but we have already gotten funding commitment of $3 million from the private sector towards financing early stage startups that are dealing in climate technology. And so the running theme here that I want us to note is that as we implement the manifesto in this ecosystem approach, we're not looking at government as the sole source of investment. We want to attract as much investment. This government can provide the seed funding, but ultimately for us to be able to build sustainable enterprises that impact the economy, we need to attract as much private funding as possible as well. And then you also have the Deep Technology Summit. The Honorable Minister talked about deep tech. moving from shallow knowledge to deep technology. Again, the key for us to be able to push this forward is to attract private sector investment. This summit happened in June, and we've already attracted $5 million commitment to local technology startups from the private sector, as well as other facilities, including cloud services that are going to, and training from world-renowned institutions such as MIT and Harvard, free of charge. This is commitment that the partnerships that we have harnessed throughout the world have given us. And so we are positive that by 2026, we will have fully achieved this promise. And we still have a few kinks to address. We want to deepen value chain analysis across all value chains, but we also want to continue engaging all the MDAs so that everything we touch together, and we have collective buy-in. And every intervention that we undertake will have this component, will have this core ingredient in mind. Now, quickly, I'll now speak about the second promise, which is increasing funding for infrastructure, both for research and development, but also for production. A few examples. So currently, for the 2024-25 target, we are on 65%. So we think that is on course. These are examples of some of the equipment that we have put in throughout the nation. Most of them are in government institutions. You see that scanning electron microscope, it is the best, possibly the best on the African continent. It's at Makerere University in the College of Engineering, and it can help us to do a lot of work in the pathogen economy, drug discovery, but also in characterizing our mineral ores. That one at the top is called Dr. Oligo. It is helpful in making our PCR kits, making some of those molecules, peptides, that again, I will talk about the PCR kits in a little bit. This is the clinical trials ward that we have established at Mulago to support our clinical trials in natural therapeutics. So far, we call them investigational medicinal products, have finished clinical trials. 5 more are already pipelined. The protocols are developed, so they're going through the regulatory pathway. But we have more than 30 products from our local innovators, we call them indigenous scientists, that are going through the upstream processes, including in vitro studies, including animal studies, and many other intermediate phytochemical analysis at DIGAL. And at each of these stages, we involve the relevant institutions to ensure that we support our innovators. This is an example of, we call it a GLP, Good Laboratory Practices facility that we have established. So even when you're doing preliminary research, discovery, you need to do it in an environment that is that is accredited, that meets minimum standards. Now, 2 years ago, compare and contrast, the team at Busitema, which was developing natural therapeutics, was working in a ramshackled facility, rented premises somewhere in Mbale, that is on your left, but government has supported them to now establish a 3-story GLP facility, so now they can undertake their work and produce quality products. And the long-term goal is that this is now a center of excellence for natural therapeutics research within the East, but we're also establishing similar facilities in each region of the country. That's part of the work, leveraging our institutions of higher learning. That's part of the work that we are still yet to do. Now, 3 years ago, at the start of the manifesto implementation period, we did not have biobanks. Now, biobanks are facilities that store biospecimens. It can be anything. It can be tissue. It can be fluids. And why these are important is, like when you have an epidemic, and you want to test your drugs, you want to test your vaccines, this can provide you with the first testing ground, but also for future research when you're trying to understand the epidemiology, the pathology of some of these things. It becomes quite important. Previously, our epidemics would happen here, and then our specimens are taken outside the country. And then when you need to use them, when the scientists need to use them, they can't find them. The CDC would not give you access, or whichever other partner had shipped them out of the country. But now we have built this capacity. We have 2 state-of-the-art biobanks. We have one at Mark BRC. This one is mainly for epidemic research. Then we also have supported another one at Uganda Cancer Institute to help us in storing biospecimens that will enable us to undertake more research in cancer. As you know, non-communicable diseases are also wreaking havoc now, and it's very important that we gain traction in research in that area as well. I'll skip that, but this is some of the work that the team at UCI is doing, piggybacking on the biobank that we have established. Francis? Okay, so this is a facility at Mbarara University. It's a state-of-the-art genomics lab, and it is also supporting drug discovery, understanding antimicrobial drug resistance, and many other state-of-the-art R&D facets. This is a lab animal house that is at Makerere, Kovab. You must have heard about the famous mice that we bought. There are now more than 160. We started with only 2 pairs. We have bred them because we acquired a license to breed them, but those were specific for particular diseases, for respiratory tract infections. But now, using that experience, we have now developed expertise to develop our own animal models, because these animal models wouldn't work for diabetes, they wouldn't work for cancer. So now we have started to, and by the way, once we perfect that, a single pair of mice will cost even more than 10 cows. So this is potentially a lucrative area for our nation. We have established the first, and this is in collaboration with the private sector, a player called AlphaSun. We have the first end-to-end vaccine manufacturing facility within the nation. Principally, it has already started manufacturing the anti-tick vaccine, which you probably know about, because for that we're already in phase 2 clinical trials, and that's our own vaccine. We have the local IP. But also, it's also supporting fill and finish for any vaccine that uses the same technology on which this line is developed. So if we got an epidemic right now, we wouldn't suffer as we suffered 3 years ago. We could easily use this facility to fill and finish vaccines. And this is some of the equipment at that facility. Yes, so we have also, because one of the strategic interventions by government is to partner with the private sector. It's very important because we get faster takeoff there. And after all, in some sectors, government may not be the best to take particular entities and businesses forward. So one such intervention is the partnership with the Day Biopharma, where government made an investment in exchange for equity, but science, technology, and innovation was also given the custody to have technical oversight over that facility. It is easily Africa's largest pharmaceutical plant, and it has a lot of capacity to manufacture vaccines, to manufacture generic drugs, to manufacture nutraceuticals, and many others. It is going to operate at a level that is accredited by the European Medical Agency and the FDA. These have already cleared us, and it's the only such facility within our region. And we expect that, and it has already started production, by the way. We expect that at full capacity, within 2 years, it should be able to contribute even up to $10 billion to the national economy. When we're able to make some of these drugs here, again, an intervention by government has been to provide offtake for these facilities. So Ministry of Health has already provided offtake, committed offtake to the products that are manufactured at the Day Biopharma. Government has also provided offtake to any other salient areas within this sector where we have developed capacity. You must have heard of East African Vitals. You must have heard of the Microhim Diagnostics, which is also making rapid diagnostic kits. So that's the capacity we are developing. So again, I insist, if we can make it here, let's not buy it from elsewhere. And that's the only way we'll be able to grow our local industries. We have made now a bit of the work that has come out of these facilities. We've made progress on our human vaccines. They've reached clinical trials. We are developing inputs for some of these vaccines, which, because many people in the world don't want us to develop this capacity, they won't sell them to us. But we are also building on our success with the anti-tick vaccine, which has progressed. We have now started supporting a team at NARO to undertake research in development of a dual vaccine for foot and mouth and lumpy skin disease. And the preliminary results are highly promising. And before the manifesto period ends, we should have that vaccine ready to be commercialized. Now, I should mention that since we were doing most of this work, our scientists were doing most of this work from scratch. In fact, I should mention that Uganda is the only nation in Africa that pursued end-to-end development and manufacturing of vaccines. And for that reason, I'm flashing one of the vaccine projects that has yielded uniquely intellectual property for our nation, based on so it's an architecture that can be used for developing other vaccines, because it has been developed using our own, we call them adenovectors, which were gotten from fecal matter of our chimpanzees. So this architecture is already, it's patented, and our scientists are already using it to develop other vaccines, including Crimean Congo, hemorrhagic fever, and we have gotten everyone in the world watching, because no one thought that this capacity could be developed. So someone could say, so why were you working on COVID vaccines? Are they still relevant? But you're building capacity, you're building these backbones, you're building expertise. So it's not about the vaccine itself, it's the fact that next time you need to develop your own vaccine, you'll be able to rapidly develop it, because you have the capacity and the infrastructure, the human capital to get it off and running. On diagnostics kits, I'll give you one example. I think you may have seen this before. So during the COVID pandemic, you must have seen that at some point, the PCR tests were very expensive. Then at some point, the cost dropped to just about halfway. And that is because we supported one of our scientists to develop a PCR kit at Mulago. And if you have taken a test at Platinum, Mulago, you have used this kit. The long story short is that ever since this kit was validated, it has been used to conduct more than 2 million tests within the nation, and counting, because COVID is still here. That's why you're still doing the tests. And if you do the math, this kit has saved our nation more than $37 million. That's about 140 billion shillings that would have been spent on other kits. And I like asking how much the investment in this kit you think was. Anyone wants to guess? The amount of money that has gone so far in this project? Ballpark? About $1 million, which is about 3 billion shillings. So that's the multiplicative nature of science. That's the potential for the qualitative leap if you're doing the right things. You invest $1 million, you get 37 million in savings in 2 years. Of course, this is not yet even fully commercial. We are just starting now on establishing the commercial production facility in the Biosciences Park, which I'll speak about in a little bit. But you can't have that kind of multiplicative ability on the economy within the realm of the factor economy. And the other good thing is that this same kit, now that we have developed the expertise, very soon we won't have to import kits for HIV, for malaria, for diabetes, etc., because molecular tests in principle all utilize the same principles. Now the same scientists have developed, we call it a proficiency testing panel. This is for standardizing, for testing the specificity and sensitivity of rapid diagnostic kits that have been made elsewhere. So use it as a gold standard to see if what you want to use is good. So this has been used in so far 23 countries within Africa. It has been accredited by the WHO, and it has also attracted supplementary funding from WHO of $2 million towards its commercial production. So this is the potential that we have. If your product is already being used in Africa and WHO says it's okay, it means you have a ready market. And the good thing is Uganda has taken the lead in all these areas. No other country in Africa, and I stand to be corrected, is developing RDTs from scratch. We have all been happy to import. Previously, it was 99% even for us. Now we are cutting that down to 90. By the end of the manifesto period, we should be down to 80. And Africa, the rest of Africa is still sleeping. It's an opportunity for us because it is a market, so don't warn them. But of course, we also want to, we can't make everything. We want the entire continent to be enlightened. We want to be the shining light to show that these things can actually be done so that we develop together. Again, in terms of facilities, we have invested, government has invested in coffee value addition, starting with a pilot plant in Intungamo. It should come online by December. Now, the goal is that ultimately we should have many such facilities. This facility is not even able to take 1% of the coffee that we produce within the nation. But we did value chain analysis for coffee. So these are some of the equipment. So it's last mile value addition, meaning we're now able to go beyond just the green bean. We can do coffee roasting, we can do soluble coffee, we can do ground coffee, we can do capsules and many other value added products. Well, we did value chain analysis for coffee, and I think the president has sung this song. I don't have to re-sing it. We did value chain analysis, and we found that for every 1 kilogram of green bean that we sell as a country, we are donating $3 to the world. So when we sell unprocessed coffee, we are losing. It's a net loss, because many of our people count just the money they are getting when they are selling. They don't count the fertilizer, they don't count the pesticides, they don't count the labor, they don't count the land. Even when you own the land, you should account for it as a factor of production. Assume you are leasing it, how much would you have spent on it? So when you do the math, you're actually better off selling seedlings than selling red cherry. But this is what this intervention is supposed to cure. The PIBID pilot plant, the PIBID team is here. In the short term, we want to make PIBID self-sustaining. Right now it has capacity of 14 metric tons of raw banana input. That translates to 1.4 metric tons of dry chips and flour. Government has already committed some investment towards upscaling this facility, fully automating it to 10 times. So that will be 140 metric tons input, translating to 14 metric tons daily. Now we already have markets for our banana flour. Banana flour is unique. It is gluten-free, that's highly sought after on the global market. It contains resistant starch, which most of you know the nutritional benefit of. But we also know that banana is happiness giving, right? It contains a compound called tryptophan, which when ingested is converted into a chemical called serotonin, which is a mood booster. So we like saying eat banana and be happy. No wonder most of us are smiling. So that's our tagline now, and that's what we're going to use to market our flour throughout the world. Banana products are in your supermarkets. Please buy them. And excuse me, and PBD is already making money. Last year they generated 3.4 billion. The target for this year is 12 billion before the implementation period of the manifesto. It's what, 25? Yes, so before the implementation of the manifesto, PBD will have broken even. That is the promise that we are giving you. But we have also started exporting our flour. We have committed market. We are already exporting a ton to South Korea per week, per month. Saudi Arabia, the Balkans, the United States. And in fact, we're only being limited by our production capacity. And we notice that when we export this flour, where we export it to, they are even extending the value chain. We saw the South Koreans are making baby foods from our flour. So we want to focus on flour as our anchor product, and then we create that innovation chain around it. Now, again, in terms of infrastructure and equipment, this is the Engineering Development and Innovation Center, which is coming out of the ENSTE project. It is our nation's largest engineering facility, and we want to operate it a little bit differently for upskilling our engineers. Most of them come out of our institutions of higher learning when they are quote-unquote raw. They don't have industry experience. They haven't touched state-of-the-art machinery. Now, this facility has easily some of the best equipment in Uganda, if not in Africa, including 5-axis CNCs, very high precision equipment. And we are focusing on 7 areas of engineering which we think are critical for our nation's transformation. And we are going to operate it in a learning factory model, meaning that whoever comes in learns as they do. So they come up with a prototype, a product, some of it can even be incubated. We're also going to establish, we have started work on an engineering, on a reverse engineering academy at the EDIC. So that's going to help us to reverse engineer most of the products that we have traditionally imported. Focus will be on, because most of our industrial automation equipment is all imported. So this would be a good starting point as well, but as well as developing skills and capacity in civil engineering, in mining, in metallurgy. We're going to establish a foundry, and I think that's going to be in place by the time the manifesto implementation period is over. URI has the state-of-the-art manufacturing and machining center at Namamvi. That's mostly used also for production, but also for skilling our technicians and engineers. And we have committed some funding towards operationalizing it, but the commitment is that by the end of the manifesto implementation period, that facility will also be fully operational. Now, we need many more of these facilities within the nation, and in fact, we are targeting to have at least one facility in every region, because engineering contributes at least 60% of the value of any product. We want to develop the engineering capacity of our nation, and that's the only way I will be able to move. We have also worked on infrastructure for the space program. So this is at Impoma. So previously this facility was dilapidated. It was under the custody of UTL in administration, but we have worked together harmoniously, Minister of ICT, Minister of Finance, and now with UTCL to have this space allocated to our space program as the headquarters of the aerospace program in Uganda. We have done some renovation, established starter ground station equipment, and government has already committed some money to even upgrade this equipment so that we're able to connect to and collect data from multiple satellites, even from ours, but also from our partners. Right, so in terms of infrastructure, there's still a bit of work to be done, and some of it may go even beyond the manifesto implementation period. I'll speak about the Biosciences Park. So the Biosciences Park is our focus right now. We are establishing it as the bridge between R&D and industrialization. You can have a GLP in a university, but before you undertake a clinical trial, you need a pilot. We call it a GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices Compliant Facility. Because if you're going to inject something into someone, then it needs to also have been developed in a controlled environment. So this is the plan for the Biosciences Park. We have targeted a number of facilities there. So GMP compliant facilities for diagnostics, therapeutics, and vaccines. We have a clinical research and translation center. We have a production line for consumables and many other facilities. And this is going to be in Nakasongola, Katugo, the T6 Industrial Park. We have been given 152 acres of land by National Enterprise Corporation, and government has already committed funding for some of the startup facilities. So by the time the manifesto implementation period ends, we will have some facilities here, including the PCR production facility. I should also mention that we have committed funding for the nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometry equipment, which will help us to, among other things, be able to discover new molecules from our therapeutics. And once we're able to do that, no one will be able to catch us. So this will be in place. I think the team has already identified a supplier, and we should have this by the end of this financial year. Right, so Promise 3, I know time is not our best ally, but I'll move quite fast. So Promise 3 is on technology incubators, and here we are on 62%. We are again piggybacking on the work that is wrong. That should be infrastructure innovations. This came out of the NSTSA project, but we are now repurposing it to house our deep technology center for Industry 4.0 with focus on 4 salient areas, including local electronics manufacturing, electronics components, climate technologies, and deep tech. And these are some of the, and again, the strategy here is to partner with the private sector. So we brought together a consortium of 23 innovators, some of them young companies that were already doing work in this space. And beknownst to some of you, our innovators have made stick computers. So what you see there that looks like a flash disk is a small stick computer that you can plug into any screen, any smart screen, and it turns it into a computer. And that can easily make computing more affordable for various applications, including improving the pedagogical experience of our young ones. We also have our companies, young companies that are already making smart meters and have started work on many other things, including electronic control units for our electric buses, and also biomedical equipment control units. So this is a facility that we have supported. It's there in Namanve at the NSTE facility. It has state-of-the-art, we call it surface mount technology for printed circuit board assembly. Now we have capacity now from design up to manufacturing. So if you design your printed circuit board, you no longer have to take it to China for it to be printed. We have developed capacity within the nation to be able to do that. And also on the other hand, on the other side of the facility, we now have the technology incubator for electronics. And this consortium, we call it RUERA Consortium. They have a room that is well equipped with benchtop test equipment where anyone can come in and design and prototype. So there are facilities for prototyping, not just electronics, but even for simple packaging implements using vacuum casting and other technologies. And so I'll show you a few examples of things so we're able to go end to end. So very soon you won't be needing to buy things that are made in China, because our innovators have made things like blow dryers, like calculators, and many other things. So these will be on the market by the end of this financial year. And this is capacity that we did not have within the nation before. So really the sky is the limit when it comes to high tech, because you can dream it and make it. Just like how you see now we talk about Internet of Things. The number of phones in the world outnumbers the number of people. So the market is immense. Connected devices, smart devices, etc., across all fields, and we're focusing on application areas that are relevant to our nation: agriculture, health, security, transport, and many others. Right, so we have also developed capacity. I'll go one back. We have also developed capacity for making, we call this 3D printers, additive manufacturing technology. So we have an innovator that we have supported that is developing 3D printers from electronic waste. And we are trying to scale this. And again, this is the future of technology. This is quite useful at prototyping level. Now, we noticed that most of our young businesses, we call them soiled toddlers. They may have good products, but they never transition them to business because they don't know anything about finances, they don't know anything about investor readiness, they don't know anything about legal, so they fail any basic due diligence. So this is what the enterprise hospital is supposed to cure. And we noticed that also some of the professors who are giving money in universities were turning into what we call grantpreneurs. They just keep rotating around the same thing because they don't know how to proceed to the next level. So that is what this enterprise hospital is helping us to cure. So it's a short training program, but periodic, for anyone who has something that is ready to move to the next level. And then we provide support in legal, in financial, in investor readiness, and many other facets that are required. We have supported the honey value chain through Tornado. These ones now have, in addition to traditional products that you know, the honeys, they now have propolis, which is highly also sought after, beeswax, and these are products that are already being exported. The incubation program at URI has supported many players in the cosmetics industry, the likes of Livara, the likes of Itoto. Most of these rely on our raw materials, again, shea butter, ghee, and many other interesting things. And just a unique product like this can multiply the value of our raw inputs by 10%. So that's the challenge. If we're to get a qualitative leap, grow the economy by 10 times, everything we're doing should have that ability, multiplicative ability of at least 10, so that we achieve our goal. And then you must be familiar with the leather value addition facility at Kau. Now what we're doing is, this is private, and now we are supporting innovators that be back on these innovative products, such as bags, such as belts, and also ensuring that the various components that you need to bring these ideas to life are also developed within the country. So we want to have agro-industrial parks. These are quite critical. We are targeting having at least 3 agro-industrial parks in the major regions of the country, and these are going to help us nurture innovation and product development and enterprise development within these regions. We want to leverage capacity around institutions of higher learning. We have started with Busitama University. which has given government, it's government, yes, but it has given 300 acres of land towards the establishment of the first agro-industrial park. There's a benchmark that we saw in Zimbabwe. It's called the Chinoi Institute of Technology. It's a university, yes, but it's also a production center. So you can find value addition to mineral capital powder as a university enterprise. High value animal feeds as an enterprise in the university. So as students are studying, they are also innovating and they are developing enterprises. Right, but we also need to develop a framework for operation of government-owned incubators so that we are able to harness their potential efficiently. Promise 4 was to fully operationalize Chira vehicle plant and also start work on the automotive and industrial technology park. Now, Chira Motors is ready for commissioning. We are waiting for a date from His Excellency. I think we should clap for that. So it is arguably the largest and most competent motor vehicle manufacturing facility on the African continent. It has everything from a body shop, that's where like all these steel girders and metal sheets come in, and then so from the body shop to the paint shop to chassis, trim line, quality inspection and testing, everything is right here. So we now have the capacity to make electric buses end to end, and we are already doing it. So the initial capacity for Chira Motors is 2,500 buses per annum, but this will be ramped up to 5,000 using the same facilities, just upgrading most of the automation within the short term. The facility is on 100 acres of land in the Ginger Industrial and Business Park. Now, if you haven't visited Chira Motors, you should, because it's you must have seen anyone who comes to Uganda now, be it presidents, be it parliamentarians, want to go there. Of course, Professor, we may have to put a few safeguards there so that people don't copy what we are doing. Let's attract the right partners and be on the lookout for any Trojans. But this is Chira Motors at a glance. I've already talked about most of the capabilities there. We have many product lines from 8-meter to 18-meter buses. And because we are designing these and making them on our own, we can even customize. We have the capacity to customize a bus to unique specifications that are needed by a particular client. And that is why you can have a baseline cost for the buses, but we can't give a unique figure and say this is what it's going to cost. We talk through the specifications and we can design that for you. We already have more than 100 pre-orders. We have already made 39 buses, 27 of them electric, but not at this facility. We are then leveraging the capacity at Ruero Industries. And going forward, we shall even continue to work with the Ruero Industries as we try to localize most of the bus parts. Our electric buses have already, before I get to that, earlier this year, Chira Motors was accredited. It was allowed to start issuing what we call VINs, Vehicle Identification Numbers. It is the only such facility that has that accreditation in Uganda, and there I say East Africa. So when you're able to award VINs, it means that you're accredited as a manufacturer. So if anyone asks whether we're manufacturing or assembling, you have part of the answer, but also anyone who asks you, tell them assembly is part of manufacturing. It's one of the last steps in manufacturing. But anyway, so the first VIN was awarded to the bus that was sold to Uganda Airlines. So this is a very big achievement for our nation. And so that means that any bus that's made in Uganda by Chira Motors can be traced throughout the world. That helps you, it builds confidence, it ensures your products can be easily recalled, they can easily be supported, And so this now puts us at par with global manufacturers, the world-renowned ones like Toyota and Mercedes. Right, I've already mentioned this. Our buses are ready for the market. Please place your orders. And I should mention that we have a multi-pronged approach to market entry. Now, one approach that has been, yes, we're working on financing models for the private sector to offtake. But as we wait on the private sector, we also thought of running a pilot of how mass mobility, smart transportation could work in a metropolitan area. And for that, Chira Motors has worked with the Secretariat to run a pilot starting in Jinja. I think they launched this past weekend, Sunday. Yes, so if you see e-bus express anywhere, that's our Ugandan enterprise that is off-taking our electric buses. They are applying the Jinja Iganga route. I think it's about 10 routes per day. I've asked for the statistics. They're still collecting them. But 4 buses were able to carry about 500 unique passengers on any given day. And I want to tell you the scalability. I did the math and they generated an average of 5,000 per passenger. So, if you had many more buses, okay, long story short, if you are carrying 100,000 passengers every day, let's say in the Kampala metropolitan area, I'm trying to cast an eye on the opportunities that we have. You're able to possibly generate more than 1 billion in a day, in a single day. Now, the other good thing is electric buses are more than 70% cheaper to operate. Remember, they're not consuming fuel. They have less moving parts than the ICE alternatives. So you're able to make money so that even if you bought this bus on credit, you're able to break even within the short term. So this is the opportunity that we want to encourage our private sector to take up. But yes, next time you're in Jinja, make sure you take a ride on Africa's next generation smart transport solution. I should mention that an innovation that we also supported is implemented on the Chira, on the EZ Express. That's the cashless mass transit. I think you can see someone holding it. It's a card, it's a smart card. So you load your money there, and when you're entering the bus, you just tap and you're paying. And this also improves efficiency on the side of the operator, but also on the side of the bus rider. Okay, so now looking forward, within the manifesto implementation period, we want to start work on the automotive industry and technology park in Kayunga. During the period, we have already acquired 2 square miles of land, and the next step is to ensure that this is transformed from a green field. So put in place basic utilities. The investment required is immense, but government will just do that part, put in place facilities, roads, water, electricity, and that will attract private sector investment. And this is where we also want to put the plant for manufacturing SUVs, but also very many other facilities that will support the rest of the ecosystem, including localization of component systems and parts, product testing and homologations, skilling centers, and vehicle parts manufacturing. In the interest of time, I will not show this video to the end, but we will share it so that you can watch it at your convenience. But we have explained the entire extent. So we already have a feasibility study complete, and we already have a business plan, and now the next step is to put in place the utilities. All right, so I'll skip this in the interest of time. We have already started work on localization of vehicle parts, including the chassis, the frame, the car seats. Automotive paints are fully sourced locally. We have started work on the EV batteries. And again, I reiterate, our target is by 2030, we should have 65% of the value of this bus locally. Right now, we're about 28%, Professor? Yeah, about 28%. Right, so we want to fully capitalize Chira Motors. Government has made that commitment and upscale the facilities to up to 5,000 buses annually. Then we want to service the automotive park and also attract private investment. And once we're able to do this, we will have fully achieved the manifesto commitments, but we think there will be an overflow a bit in the next, but we promise that by the end of the period, we'll have at least reached 80%. Right. The next promise is on flexible funding arrangements for innovation-driven enterprises. Government is doing its best, but as you know, we have a constrained resource envelope and competing priorities, so we still, that's why we have to still engage everyone to ensure that they understand that what we are doing is important, and so we're able to attract even more funding. We have an innovation fund that supports various projects, including not just professors, but also our Juakaris, informal sector, to bring their ideas to life. We have more than 100 projects that are supported currently. But when we're supporting anyone now, we have a blueprint that we follow to characterize them. We call it the STI idea to market journey. In the interest of time, I will not spend time on it. But we have multiple phases. We have idea to prototype, prototype to viable product, then we have profitable enterprise, and then ideally we would want all our enterprises to reach mature brands, global recognition, where they are fighting for IPOs. But you would struggle to find a uniquely Ugandan business that has gone from R&D and reached what we're calling phase 4 there. Even our own Chira Motors right now is in phase 2. So we now want to, because the science we know how to do, the technology we develop, we have the prototypes, but now we need to translate a lot more into the innovation, industrialization, and commercialization. So we don't want to keep cycling around phase 1 and 2, but we want to push. So anyone that comes to us, anyone that submits something to us, we locate where they are, and then we give them appropriate support. And that also goes down to the funding that you're giving. For example, if someone is still in phase 1 or at idea, or they haven't proven anything, you're not going to give them a loan, a returnable loan. You're not going to attract venture capital for them. What they need at that point is a grant. But if you have already validated something on the market, then probably then we have now a mechanism for giving returnable grants through partnership with UDB, because we want to start inculcating the business acumen in our innovators. Right, so these are some of the things that have come out of the Innovation Fund. It's a 3-in-1 trike that was developed by our Juakali from the informal sector with support from Chira Motors. So there was an engine, a rudimentary, rugged engine that wasn't a product, but we supported them. They developed a 3-in-1 trike. Must have seen it. It was launched by the president at Independence Day in Kitgum in 2023. So now we are supporting this, and this is going to be at Rebitate now that the facility is ready to improve the engineering, precision, and mass produce it for the market. This single vehicle can transform a household into an industrial enterprise. It can carry 1 ton of load, it can generate 6 kilowatts of power, and it can pump 6,000 liters of water per hour. So that's why we call it a 3-in-1 trike, because it has that triple use. Right. We also have a cooker, a solar-based cooker that uses Ugandan patented inductive heating technology. and this one is also going to be pushed to the Engineering Development and Innovation Center for mass production. This is from Makerere University, and it's also ready for the market. We have a bioreactor that has been made by one of our scientists as well. Now, bioreactors are quite expensive. This is a 5-liter, the prototype is a 5-liter bioreactor, and when we do the math, it costs about 10% of an equivalent bioreactor on the global. Yeah, it does very well. It can produce biofuels. We have already tested the output. We have already, as you know now, policy-wise, we're also, to reduce emissions, we want to put as much biofuel into the petroleum products as possible. We have already tested the quality of the biofuel coming out of this, and the fuel is performing very well in the internal combustion engine. So this is again Ugandan technology with a bit of reverse engineering, but with some bit of novelty as well. Now this is advanced research in nanoparticles. Some of our scientists have figured out how to make nanoparticles from metallic dust, which is produced at a large scale by our steel and mills industries. Now they make the nanoparticles and package them into filters, which they can use for filtering water or industrial effluent. And that's a very big global market. No one is doing it in Africa, and the product is really good. And I think by the end of this year, we'll have finished the industrial validation, and we'll do the mass production at Rebitete. Now, I keep mentioning Rebitete because we have discovered also that the key is not multiplying effort, right? If you already have a facility that has equipment, you don't need to support everyone now to buy equipment of their own. Let them use that central facility to bring their products to the market. So that's the approach we are taking. And it's the same approach that we'll use with the biosciences park. This is the Kasaiba cashless mass transit payment system. I already talked about it. This is Pombegard. We have supported it also. Pombe is alcohol in Swahili. So the idea behind this is, how many of us drink? You don't have to tell me. But the idea is, if you drink, we lose a lot of productivity because people are nursing hangovers. So you drink, and then after you take Pombegard, it protects you from the deleterious effects of alcohol. So you will wake up as fresh as ever. But of course, that's a good enough market, right? But the bigger reason why you're interested in this is that there's anecdotal evidence that it has analgesic properties. It can be pain medicine, so we are taking that component through a clinical trial, and the protocol has been developed as well. But we already have a pilot plant for producing Pombegard. We partnered them with Alphasan. This is another product from a Juakari, an egg incubator. Most of the egg incubators we have in the nation are low volume, and they are imported. What we have validated is a product that can carry up to 5,000 500? 1,000, up to 1,000 eggs. And it's already validated in the market, and now the next step is to mass produce it. And its cost is about 50% of competing technology, I think. So, of course, we're not looking at just this. You're looking at the trickle-down effect. If you're able to roll this out, let's say in PDM, it means that now you even increase productivity at the grassroots level. Right. This is another product that is Ugandan intellectual property. It is a biodegradable hair from banana fiber. And again, this is very unique, and it has been validated. That's why you see it on someone's hair. This is a multi-billion market, multi-billion-dollar market globally. But of course, what is important is now we are talking about saving the environment, right? So this product could easily gain traction and sell billions of dollars on the global market. And now we are working through the mass production, and very soon within the manifesto implementation period, we'll be able to show some good results from this product. And what I want you to see is that the knowledge economy is about thinking about products that we have traditionally not been making. Even in the traditional economy, you see that, yes, most of us have been using shoe brushes. We don't know where they come from, right? But our innovators come up and say, oh, we can make bristles for shoe brushes from cowtail hair, of all things. So it means you're now adding value to something that literally had zero or very little value. So these are the brushes that some of our innovators have made with our support. They are already available in supermarkets, and these bristles are made from indigenous cowtail hair, and they're very well liked on the market, and they're also biodegradable. So that is a plus. Speak environment, speak products like this. Right, so we have so many examples of innovations like that, but that's just a snippet. As I mentioned, we're supporting 100 projects, but even in addition to that, there are those that we support, we give in kind support, not necessarily. So across the entire ecosystem, we're supporting like more than 400 enterprises, and each of them has a product that we could talk about. But we're also looking at how we can support the parish development model using productivity acceleration tools. There's an example here of a pilot that we ran in 1,500 households. And we showed that using this algorithm, without even, just by equipping our locals with knowledge and not necessarily giving them more money, they were able to achieve 70% increase in income within a period of less than 1 year. And this is a pilot that we've already run in, I think, 4 parishes so far. And the results really show that this is an intervention that can easily be uptaken by the entire nation. We have also supported development of a strategic plan for the Bukit sub-region and neighboring regions. This was launched by His Excellency the President recently. And this aims to uplift household incomes to more than 30 million per year. Again, not by giving handouts, but by equipping people with knowledge on how they can increase production. Then we have an intervention we call district the factory model to provide offtake to the raw materials, ensuring that we have an ecosystem where people can learn from each other, but also having integration of priority value chain. If someone is working on fertilizer, then they should be able, there's enough market within their district to be able to sell it even before, but does anyone know that someone is making fertilizer within that region? And the feedback we're getting from here is that every region should have such a plan, and we are having the relevant engagements to ensure that we can support the other regions to have similar strategic plans. We have also, there's a unique intervention also between Mbositima University, STI, and INT Institute for National Transformation. Most of you could know Professor Vincent Anigbogu. So this is ingraining entrepreneurship within the youth. The target is that we have 300 youth skilled in agro production and 300 enterprises by the end of the manifesto period. And this is some of the training that's currently ongoing. So you're looking at champion youth enterprise leaders that can lead the economy at that level within the nation. Now, yes, in addition to the funding that we give from the Secretariat, universities also have research funds, which we are glad to talk about. We know Makerere University gets about 30 billion per year. That has recently gone down, but other universities get paltry amounts. So that's an area where we need to improve. And mostly in universities, we're looking at phase 1. It doesn't mean that if I do the research, I should be the one to take the innovation forward. So we also have an innovation exchange center so that if someone has their IP, they can license it, they can choose to take equity in an enterprise through partnership with entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. Now, the Innovation Fund is the key component of what we do. We think that we have a good case for it to be increased, but we also want to establish what we call a fund of funds, which is like a rolling fund, so that I earlier talked about a revolving funding mechanism, returnable grants, so that I give an innovator funding. Once they have broken even, they're able to pay it, even if it's at no interest, so that it can support another innovator in the ecosystem. So it doesn't look like you're giving people free money, but it's money that can move around. All right, I'm about to finish. Promise 6, this is really not our unique domain, but where we know government has done a lot in improving the pay of scientists. Most people are happy, but what we need to do science on our end is we have started developing tools to measure people's productivity. So you're a university lecturer and you're saying, pay me this much, but do you really merit it? Huh? What are you bringing? What's the input that is driving that output? Or you're just draining the economy? Huh? Is there someone who could be paid even much more? Or could you be, okay, now this also goes to the private sector. What informs you to hire 5 people instead of 3? Are you looking at the amount of products you're churning out per day? Or if you're going to have production, 4 months without production time, do you need to keep people on a constant salary? You could probably pay people at a man-hour rate. So these are conversations that we need to have. But by and large, you see that through government intervention, the average annual salary to compare of a professor in the US is $100,000. If the annual salary for a professor in Uganda is 168 million. So if you use purchase power parity, you'll find that in effect a professor in Uganda earns more than a professor in the United States. So I think government has done really well. But now we need to ensure that you're paying people well, but are they producing? It shouldn't be a song of pay us more. And so that's why we are looking at developing and implementing productivity analysis tools for scientists throughout the nation to inform remuneration, and this is a promise that we will deliver on within the manifesto period. Creation of a supportive ecosystem, we're at 84%. We have a one-stop center where anyone can walk to us at any time, but also we have virtual online media through which we can be reached. We have an investor readiness program, I had mentioned it. We undertake value chain analysis. Value chain analysis now brings us to the Chibaro, which is the prime spot in a value chain that is giving you potential for that high multiplication ability. So we have done value chain analysis for almost all our raw agricultural products, and we know where government is supposed to intervene. And we do all this in concert with the relevant MDAs. Right, so again, we'll be able to achieve 80%. We still have to functionalize our exchange center, which is the handshake between researchers and entrepreneurs. We want to streamline, because most of the things we're working on are new, we need to harmonize with UNBS and ensure that we have the requisite standards, but we also have a lot of work in streamlining the IP value chain with URSB. Okay, as I come close to the end, supportive legal and regulatory ecosystem for STI, there's a lot of work going on in here. UNCST is our chief regulator for science in the nation. We have done some work on streamlining it and enhancing its capacity. We have worked a lot with NDA to streamline support for the pathogen economy, including all these facilities we are putting up, because it has to be at the center UNCST as well, from the very beginning and up to the very end, and monitoring all the processes in between. We have an e-mobility strategy, I already talked about it. Now the next step is to work with every MDA so that it's doing its bit in implementing the strategy. For example, the Ministry of Energy has developed draft guidelines for charging, if I should say ERA, actually, draft guidelines for charging infrastructure. Those will soon be rolled out. There's a facilitative package for local manufacturers of EVs. We have undertaken a legal and regulatory audit for STI to again inform. We didn't want to rush on revising the STI policy, which is due for revision, because there are so many things we didn't understand. For example, we worked on some products, but we were told you can't patent them, you can't protect them, because Uganda signed off to the TRIPS agreement, which binds us. So these are some of the things that we need to be careful about. I think this is where the stakeholder engagement is quite useful, so that we are sure that we are not tying our own hands as we try to develop STI in the nation. UNCST has achieved quite a lot in research registration. Almost all our institutions now have regulatory committees, so at least that process is now streamlined, but we are doing even more, ensuring that there's awareness in our scientific community about this process. Right, we have had a deep dive into what we call, I'll finish in 5 minutes, sir. We have had a deep dive into the Global Innovation Index. This is a song that we've sung for a while, but many of us did not understand it. What is GII? You say GII is a measure of innovation in a nation, but who sets the parameters for GII? Were we consulted? Do we have the data? We actually found that Uganda ranks, what's the position, Sam? 101? 121. So doing badly. But when you look at the data, they're either using data from 2013, or they tell you data source is Ministry of Education and Sports, but it's not available. And yet, on this side, we produce annual reports and our strategic plans, we produce status reports. So there is a very big gap there. Of course, we say we want to make Uganda the best. So anyone, even our venture capitalists, if they want to invest money here, they look at GII. If I put up a factory in Uganda, will I have competent human capital? Or I will have to bring in Chinese and Kenyans to run the facility, which would be detrimental to my bottom line. So since we must be measured by GII, we have to work proactively to ensure that our nation improves in this ranking. And we are working on a comprehensive strategy, and we'll be able to present it to the nation soon. But also, we noticed that some of the metrics they are looking at in GII may not necessarily benefit us. So we will also, through this process, identify what we need to be measuring that is not captured by GII, so that we can start measuring it towards growing our STI ecosystem. Of course, GII will not be looking at the impact on the economy. They will just be looking at peripherals, probably, or maybe patents in themselves. And in fact, for us, we have always been looking at intellectual property as if it's the only contributor to GII. But if you have intellectual property and you're not leveraging it, is it impacting the economy? Probably not. So we have to look at the follow-up actions as well. Right, so STI policy and law is forthcoming. We need to streamline working with UNBS on standards, and then we need, since we're working on so many things in each value chain, we need value chain specific regulations, and we promise that we are moving a little bit slow on this one, but we promise that we'll be able to hit 75%. And then lastly, STI human capital development. No STI system is better than the quality of its human capital. This is where this comes in. It's people, people, and people. Without people, you can't have innovation, and you cannot have products. We are doing a bit well, on 85% on the manifesto promises. I'll quickly show you some of the things. We have an e-bus operator program. We are putting electric buses on the market. We call them operators because it's different from driving. The gears are different. You also need to know how to charge, so we call them operators. We have so far trained more than 200, actually, I need to update this, more than 200, and I think 100 are also undergoing training. So by the end of this year, we'll have more than 300 accredited electric bus operators. And this program is run by Chira Motors in collaboration with Luero Industries. We need to support our policymakers to know how to pick the right things. That's where such capacity building happens. We sent our engineers in Q-Tech, Japan, and they made our first satellite. Since then, we have not more than 18 aerospace scientists in the nation. That's not a number you can build an industry around. So we have gone ahead to train others in China. We have trained 4 engineers in Egypt at the Egypt Space Agency, and these are the ones that are now working on the mission ideation contest to develop our next satellite. Return on investment, since we're speaking impact on the economy, again, this targets policymakers and innovators. We want to, before we pick, if I had 10 ideas, how am I going to pick what has the highest multiplication ability? So this is an approach that we have gained competence in, and which we think we should build capacity in throughout all the government MDAs. So this is a conversation that we'll need to be having. We have a special leadership science program. For us to build science, we need people who are patriotic, who have the right mindset, but who have that foresight. So it's a program that we run at the Secretariat, and also in some of the agencies. It's a weekly 6-hour program, and it's time that we invest and which has started reaping dividends. We have the Foundry program for developing STI human capital in the realm of industrial scientists. We have so far taken on 21, and most of them are either attached to projects of the supported by the Secretariat or our agencies and our institutions. This is Yuri. It's doing a lot of work in also industrial skilling at both the Namave facility, but also in Nakawa. More than 700 engineers trained within the manifesto implementation period, and I think by the end we'll have more than 1,000 trained. And then within the context of the NSTE project, we trained what we call TOTs, trainers of trainers, right? So they first undertook training in China. Because we're putting in place this high-tech equipment, we don't have capacity to not just operate it, but maintain it, service it, and reverse engineer it. So that's the idea behind the TOTs. So we first had a 3-month training in China, followed by 4-month training in Uganda, and I think the training is ending very soon. So we have about 25 TOTs that have been highly skilled. And then our partners at the bilateral level also sometimes give us training opportunities. For example, this is the China supporting us with training in electric vehicle manufacturing. They also supported training in global satellite navigation systems. This is the International Vaccine Institute that has supported 3 of our people to undertake training in GMPs, biomanufacturing. So at least we have some capacity in there that we did not have before. So looking forward, now we need to further grow our capacity. We need to look at the diaspora reintegration program. We have many people that are out there. They're really good. They're working for Boeing, NASA, GSK. They want to come home. We need to have a structure for them to be able to come and contribute to our ecosystem. We want to expand the Foundry program, operationalize the Engineering Development and Innovation Center, and have an accreditation mechanism for the outputs, but also have market-creating innovations training for the entire ecosystem. And we think that by the end of the manifesto period, we'll achieve more than 90%. So at a glance, this is where we are in terms of the manifesto promises. We have an average of 79% right now. But in terms of the eventual targets, for the end of 25-26, we are at 61%. So Director, members, we promise you that by the end of the manifesto implementation period, we will have at least and 80% overall. And when I was in school, I think that would have been an A. So we promise you that. I'll gloss over this. We have a few challenges, including still skepticism for Ugandan-made products. Through our buses and many other products, I've shown you, we don't want you to buy Uganda out of pity. Buy Uganda, build Uganda, because it's a quality product. So we promise that we'll give you quality products. So this skepticism should really go down. We want to improve the regulatory landscape. We want to have more structured funding. We'll keep lobbying. But also, the principles that guide effective deployment of STI that the minister talked about earlier, we need to inculcate them in our ecosystem. To conclude, we think there's now a clear understanding of the journey we need to take, as earlier presented in the strategy. We are able to demonstrate a number of pathfinder projects. We call it action learning. We've been able to learn through implementation, and I think now we know a little bit of what needs to be done, because we have trailblazers that are setting the pace. We have a clear strategy for human capital development, and we have achieved buy-in from government, because STI has been recognized as an anchor, one of the 4 anchors in achieving the qualitative leap in NDP4. And that's a success that we'll build upon. And so the next 2 years, I should say 1.5, remaining in the manifesto implementation period, will enable us to build on what we have achieved, but also taking further input, further iteration, and so that's why we're interested in the conversation, your observations, so that we can further improve and make STI work for our nation. Thank you very much.
Oh, this is really, really serious business. Please join me to give a very big applause to the science, technology, and innovation. Some time back, I think His Excellency the President was on national television and made this statement. He said, Uganda etanda sokumpomera. And there is no reason why all of us who are watching, who are here, should not share the same sentiment with His Excellency the President. Please once again clap for this team for the job it is doing. We are slowly trying to appreciate, or we want you, the sector, as ably stated by the Minister, to shift science from being a hobby to a way of life. So I believe whoever was watching, most especially Ugandans, we need to have this mindset of start welcoming science as a way of life. So allow me once again to salute you, the presentations both from the Minister and the technical person here. We have these observations from the Manifesto Implementation Unit. First and foremost, we want to salute the efforts in the way science is slowly but surely integrated in the socio-economic transformation journey through the various interventions and investments that we have seen here. We want to identify the STI ideology that is being propagated, the science strategy, which is all geared at making sure that science makes a change in this country. We have also seen that through these innovations and investments, the country is making a big saving in terms of import substitution, which will also go a long way with creating capacity internally to make the economy grow through job creation and also expanding the economy, which can now generate a lot of revenue. I also want to inform viewers that us as a unit responsible for monitoring some of these issues, that all the various infrastructural investments you have seen here do exist. They have not copied from magazines. Some of you have not seen them. You may think they went and took photos somewhere and brought them here. These investments exist within this country. We have been there physically. We have seen them. So what remains now is how this journey of making them, translate whatever the intentions are to make sure that the Ugandans can benefit from the objectives. I was very excited by Pombe Gad. You know, this country operates two economies. There is the day economy and the night economy. But the night economy is more active than the day economy. And Pombe Gad could be one of the very, very interesting products. And I don't know when he will start the commercial production, and I don't know whether he could also be allowed to be the sole distributor of this product in this country. Now, having observed that, I want to say that you are aware that the wisdom or the mind behind the manifesto crafting team was looking, or if I may use the wisdom of the president, because this science issue has been more to the president than probably many of us are trying to appreciate it now, is that science is being emphasized for purposes of improving productivity, enhancing private sector competitiveness, accelerating growth in the economy, and creating jobs. And I think you're on the journey. Now we have these observations for noting, others could be for clarification. First of all, I want to share with you this sentiment that in many of these Ugandans, this journey is still abstract. And we need to pick it from there to bring it to real life experience. So whatever you are doing, I think we need to look for a way of how this percolates further to make sure that the common man can start appreciating why we have science amidst us. And this will call for the mainstreaming of the science agenda into many of our real life experiences, although it is true that where you have touched, and these investments and innovations can lead to that, but I think we need a bit more of explanation on this science journey. Secondly, we want to salute all the efforts in the innovation areas we have seen, but I think many Ugandans may not know the criteria. I have seen you trying to take us through the process on what it means, but I think this criteria needs to be more open to our Ugandans so that they can know, if I have this innovation, or if I have this idea as the minister was observing, how do I proceed to have it enter into this science processing, and then it can be able to lead to the very different products that we are looking at. I want to say that I and my team, we have been at many of these infrastructure developments. We've been in PIBID. This is a situation actually in my home district in Bushenyi. PIBID has moved very well, I think, from the products we are seeing here. However, there was the other side of it on helping research on improving yield and banana growing. And this is also not coming out quite in a big way. Because the president has been talking about the global yield output of banana per hectare, I think per year, around 72,000 tons or 72 tons. Now, Nyaruzinga, where we have this facility, I think, on their model, banana plantation, they had gone up to 52 or 53. Now, the traditional, where some of us, the local farmers, are, we are around, I think, 22. This is your research, for the baseline findings. So we would also want to know, in terms of helping the banana area research, how far have we gone and where are we? Are we still at 22? Have we moved up to 30? And when are we getting to the 52, actually near to the model farm that we have at Nyaruzinga? So beyond the production side of the biscuits and going commercial, but we would also want to see the other side, how the research is also benefiting the banana crop within this country, which will continue to be a raw material for these products. We've been to URI. This is Uganda Institute Research, Uganda Industrial Research Institute. I think they are doing a good job. There is a heavy investment. The machinery is there. But I think it is also important for Ugandans to know how many Ugandans have gone through URI, and is there a follow-up program to say that, you know, these are Ugandans who have been here and this is their startup kind of businesses, so that, because the idea on the manifesto side of it, it may appear output in approach, but going forward, we also want to see the impact these things cause to our citizens. Otherwise, we want to, the government has been serious in terms of making sure that the investments are there, equipped. Now we want to see the skilling aspects of it, the incubation support aspects of it, how many Ugandans are benefiting. Do we have like a structured program that every year we expect 200 people to be in this program, and at the end of the year they come out, that kind of stuff. There is EDIC, the Engineering Development Innovation Center, I think at Webtete. This is another one of the like you ably explained it, one of the classic infrastructures in this country. And to me, after visiting this area and this facility, I saw that this country, this facility can be a game changer in the engineering journey of this country. And our proposals were that, why don't we look at this as an LDC of engineering in this country? Of course, it will not be a road development center. It will be now engineering development center for our engineers. Because I believe many of our engineers go through this profession when they have not even had the opportunity to look at what is in this investment. So we would like to say, how do you structure this within our education system so that we are able to support our country. I think that is all what we have. Maybe in the next manifesto we could look at how we can use science to manage our waste. I think this is also another challenge within this country, and a very available raw material on how we can manage within our cities so that we have clean cities, but science has also helped us to manage this waste. And I'm very happy that you are trying to address the issue of productivity. I think this also needs to be addressed within the wider sector of public sector management. Now that we have this RAPEX program going on, we work with the maybe head of public service and the labor ministry to see how we can make our Ugandans more productive than we are now. So those are the observations that I have from the manifesto unit. I will now invite the media. But before I proceed with the media, allow me to recognize you, Honorable Attorney General, who is the next presenter. We are very humbled by your presence. You must have missed something here, and I think your brain is very key on how to create a regulatory environment for the science to continue on its journey. But that could be for another time. So members of the media, please let's rush through this. I want your ideas, questions, observations, and then we are done with science. Thank you so much. Anybody? Yes, go ahead. Your name, media house, and your observation, please. Go ahead.
Okay. I think it's time for introduction, everybody. I beg to take this opportunity to thank the team from the Ministry of Science and Technology. Really thank you for your wonderful presentation. It was really very good. And I would like also to congratulate you for the achievement that you have managed to achieve. So, as Uganda, we are lucky if at least we have all the achievement. My name is Vincent Nasuna. I work with this FM as a news reporter. Here I have two questions, and one, I want to ask the ministry, what are you going to do at least to convince Ugandan people to love sciences? Because there are some people who are still have that mentality that sciences are hard. This is so common, especially in schools, because students, many students seriously hate sciences, and you have been here that. That's why you can find here in Uganda, we don't have many number of scientists because of that. Many of them hate sciences, their complaint sciences are hard, sciences are very expensive, but how far have we gone at least to teach them that sciences are good, sciences are the best? I think you have got me well. Then let me go directly to the next question. The next question is, have we done enough to help the scientists in terms of supporting them, financing them, improving their sciences and technology? Because we have been seeing some scientists who are crying for the government to help them, at least to put some money in their hands when it comes in technology. I think these are some of the questions we have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Who else? Yes, please.
Thank you for giving me this chance of classification. My name is Ambrose Henry. I am a journalist working with Watchdog Online. When you are presenting some of the innovations and the research findings from various Ugandans, I noticed that you did not, if at all, apart from mentioning the other from the neutralizer, but there are very many alcoholic products out there being vetted by very many Ugandans, and we pass through our suburbs. Some of us don't know if you are aware of this products, because they are also part of science, because there's a lot of chemistry behind every alcoholic product. And at one time, somebody told me that this young water people drink out there. Actually, it was first brewed in France, and that takes 300 years for it to mature into being bottled and then exported to other countries. Now, if somebody can brew a product and it takes 300 years, which means that the one that will be consumed by maybe by the next generation is still in the tanks being brewed and being kept there until that period starts. What I'm asking in a nutshell is that there are very many alcoholic products, and science is what I want you to tell us whether these people come to you for advice or they just make these products behind your back and make you are the sole ministry in charge of science and innovation. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
thinking. First of all, I would love to thank the presenter for the wonderful presentation. My name is Zini Kachigundu, and I work for Whisper an online news media platform. Of course, one of the challenges you talked about is the general skepticism for the government products. I would like to know what strategy do you have as the ministry to make sure that Ugandans can have trust in products made in Uganda. Because for sure, most Ugandans believe the product that is homemade is not of quality. I don't know if you drop your iPhone for Ugandan phone. I don't think you do that. But my question once again is, what measures are you taking to make sure that Ugandans can have trust in products that are made local? Thank you.
Okay, I think this time I'll be a bit restrictive, so you be the last to be able to run through the program.
Thank you so much. My name is Rita Nyamira from Church of Uganda Family TV. Thank you so much, sir, for the presentation. But one issue that we are still facing as a country, waste management, and what is the ministry doing to ensure that we curb this matter? We all know about all the issues that happen with the utilities landfill that kills so many lives of innocent people. So the ministry, what are you planning to do to ensure that we totally do away with the matter of the waste management? We see that around Kampala City, over 25 tons of rubbish are being collected every day. So where are we going and what is the solution to this matter? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Me, I had preserved that for the next manifesto, but could tell us since you have raised it. Allow me now to invite you to come and clarify on some of these observations. And then you are also at liberty to invite any of your technical teams to come and support you in these answers. And we are time bad, but please enjoy the space.
Thank you, sir. I'll cut it to the chase. The question on skepticism for Ugandan-made products. Like I mentioned, we don't want you to buy Ugandan products out of pity, and we know our people. They believe by touching and feeling. So give them quality products, and they will believe. We know 20 years ago made in China was a joke, right? But now made in China is state of the art, isn't it? But that's because you have progressively used Chinese-made products in your households, in your workplaces, and you know that they last long and they are of good quality. So that's what we're trying to do, put quality products in the market. And I'll tie that to the challenge that we face with some of our scientists and innovators. I showed the idea to market journey. First phase is idea to prototype. Some of our scientists come with the prototypes and they want to go to market. And we tell them, no, by design, you cannot sell a prototype. First of all, it will be overly expensive and it is not precise. It doesn't have that finesse. It's looking rugged. No one will want to look at it. So we want our scientists, our innovators to also be accommodative to guidance so that they tour this journey with us. For example, in phase 2, that's where we do product validation. That's where we do supply chain optimization to ensure that we bring the cost down. That's where we put pilot plans to ensure that we are producing things in a standard environment. That's where we look at issues of standards and regulations to ensure that whatever you're producing can be sold here legally and also sold to the entire world. So that's a multifaceted approach, but also improving branding and packaging, poorly packaged. So that's the multifaceted intervention that we are taking. Ambrose asked about now again, we cannot touch everything. I mentioned we are working on a remedy for alcohol that also doubles as an analgesic. We haven't had any scientist come to us with a unique formula for an alcoholic beverage. If it came, we would look at it in light of our strategy. If this is something that has high potential, is this an area that is worth focusing on? But so far, no one has come to us. But on the tail end, we have some innovators who have alcoholic products, especially wines. And we noticed that there are so many wines from banana, from pineapple, from hibiscus, but none of them has gained traction on the market. Our people are still preferring imported wine. So we may need some policy intervention there, because sometimes if someone sees an imported wine that has become a global brand costing the same as a local wine, they may think twice about buying. So how do we optimize our locally made products, ensure that they are meeting the right standards to compete favorably with the imported alternatives? And so on that front, we support on branding and packaging, standardization, working in concert with UNBS to ensure that is taken care of. I'll request Professor Tikodri to answer the question on, because he's a seasoned educator and an innovator, on how we can convince Ugandans to love sciences, especially the young generation.
Thank you. Maybe I start by introducing who he is, Cosmos. This is one of my senior Bazukulus. Okay. So what he presents or what he delivers is in a way a measure of my performance when I groomed up. And then of course I've got the youngest. One is I think 4, the other is 6. They are spending their time watching a lot of these TV programs when COVID was around. And then from there they would go and they train, draw the same things they've seen on those TV, and continue. Now, I'm bringing that because I was in the Ministry of Education, in charge of higher education, and the idea was to actually answer that question, that how do we formulate our education system so that it introduces that love for science and so on. Now, part of this is historical because when the Wazungus brought education here, it was for training a small category of people who would then support them in their administration and operations. And the quickest thing was to learn those areas where you simply remember, but you don't actually test and try. So over those decades, we developed that nature of the education where you do things when you ask those questions was meant to be a hard subject. I'm sure your mom must have been told that math is for boys. Okay? That's a typical thing. And even when you teach that math, it was taught in a manner that was only for the so-called men in the school. Now that is the problem we have had right up to now. Okay? That the teachers who continue to teach still have that attitude. So the beginning point of addressing that issue would be transforming those teachers. How do you make those teachers teach in a manner that the kids actually love that subject? And that subject does not have to be only history. It does not have to be, music and all that. But how do you teach science in the language of the ordinary things that happens in the life so that the kids are made to love this? What that would require is that our educational system does not allow people to select whether to do sciences or history and all that at a very early age. I was a victim because in S2, I was made to select whether to do sciences or the arts. Unfortunately, in my second year, rather in S2, I had an American teacher who persistently scored me 49 in history. Okay? 49 persistently. But before that American teacher came in, my scores were in 80s and so on. So that forced me not to take history. Okay? I abandoned history, and fortunately I was able to do the sciences and continued. But the moment I finished my undergraduate, I realized even my sciences had a history. They needed me to have studied in order for me to understand what my science had, Newton's, Einstein's, and all those. So what did I do? I decided to go back, start history on my own, but without being examined. So I can now engage in historical discussion and so forth without having past history. And I think you'll find me comfortable engaging me in history matters. So the point I'm making here is that our education system was so, formulated that it made actually the science look very difficult, and we have to do something in order to change that attitude. That's one. Two, the teachers themselves. I don't know how I can transform them so that they begin to love also the sciences, because that is another area. So in a nutshell, I think that until we address those issues, the nature of our educational system, the content, and then the people who teach them, make the kids love this, then you'll have addressed what you're kind of. Before that, I'm afraid we won't have much in this area.
Thank you very much, Professor. Professor, you forgot to mention that we can also leverage extracurricular. Chiramoto started as an extracurricular activity. Yes. Yes. There are some, Director, we thank you very much for these observations and input towards our improvement. I think for most of them we don't have to respond. We will continuously engage. But I'll invite Dr. Cody to talk about waste management, the innovation we are undertaking in that area, since it's a listed interest. And as he comes, I'll mention that one area we also need to improve is information sharing with the public about our interventions and programs. So we will work closely with the Government Citizen Interaction Center to ensure that one, we publicize what we are working on, including the mechanism through which we are able to support our innovators, but also to get feedback for us to improve. Dr. Okodi, and then we finalize.
Thank you. I will respond to the Church of Uganda TV question on waste management. First of all, there are technology interventions, and on that we are targeting using waste for generating energy. This is a new intervention that we are spearheading. The other one is on recycling, and the situation of waste is different in different parts of Uganda. If you go to Gulu, they have a very good plastic waste management practice, and most of that waste is going back to recycling. So we've supported some of those technologies in the universities, like Mbarara University. they segregate the waste. The other one, the other use of the waste is to separate biodegradable waste which can be used in fertilizers. So this one is also happening. NEMA is taking the lead on some of these things because it fits within what they are doing. But when it comes to technology, we are supporting those interventions. Thank you.
Okay, once again, join me to thank the team. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, wherever you are, and your team here, for this wonderful presentation. So I want to declare this session closed, and then we are having a marathon through because the Attorney General is already in the house, and we need to move as fast as possible. So allow me to let you leave at leisure, and then I usher in the Attorney General and his team so that we are able to proceed. Thank you so much.